Hey, everybody, this is Liz, and today I am with someone whose story is not like anybody else's in Augusta and how he came to be an Augustan. And I would like him to introduce himself, his name, and where he's located.
Yeah, hey everybody. My name is Joe. I'm Long Island born. I'm from Lindenhurst, New York, and I'm 21 years old. When I joined initially, I was 20, um, but I'm not in. I haven't been in the industry for very long, but um, for my short career, it's been quite the journey, and I wouldn't be where I'm at without Augusta and the team.
Great. Let's back up just a little bit. Tell us about your family and how you grew up, a little bit about that dynamic.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I worked at my parents are it's a middle we're a middle class family, not in a rich neighborhood or anything special. I don't come from an entrepreneur background or anything, but I grew up just small town, small friends, and my parents taught me good values, and I got the pleasure to grow up with three other siblings, and not always hasn't always been good, but that's just the dynamic of being brothers, and we're all 2 years apart, so it's like this sometimes. But we were raised great, and I'm extremely grateful for all that they've done for me.
And what was the industry that your parents worked in?
Well, it's a polar opposite of me. Both my parents work from home on a computer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So my mom's in health insurance. My dad works for a company called Adecco. I'm not even going to try to explain it because I have no clue what they do.
Okay, well, that's great. Have they worked at home since before COVID, or did they work just since COVID?
Well, growing up, my mom and dad both used to go to an office, but it got to the point where it was too much, and then my mom got to stay home when she's taking care of four kids, driving back and forth to school. So
Wow.
her boss arranged that, and so she's always been working from home. And then during COVID, my dad started working from home, and after that, yeah, he's always been working from home now, and he loves it. So
And how is that with all of you guys in the same house and two parents working there? Is the dynamic stressful, or has it been a little better?
honestly, I think it's better. I think we've all came together as a family. Our beliefs, our values are all very similar. Um, like before, I think there was a lot more stress in the home, but now it's just like everybody's in their routine. Like me and my brother, we go out to work. My parents, they wake up and their office is right downstairs, so it's a
Eat.
short commute to work. And the two other siblings are in high school, so it's like we're all just in our own world. We have our own space in the house, and it's just a good dynamic.
And how was school there in New York?
Um, I mean, I have mixed emotions on the school. I did 1 year in college before dropping out, which was the best decision I ever made. That's why I'm a landscaper.
Hmm.
But high school was great. I made so many friends. I had so many great experiences. I met my girlfriend that will be together 5 years in April. So I have no complaints. It was a good education, and it's why I'm here today.
There's lots of stuff right in there that I want to pull out. But what were you going to college for?
Business, because unironically, I got into entrepreneurship from like early on in high school, and it really started with like a dream to be a hockey player.
Hmm.
I don't know if you know, but many hockey players, ice hockey specifically, start skating when they're very young, at like 2, 3 years old. And I never did that because hockey is very expensive, and
Yes.
I played baseball, soccer, all different sports growing up. But I said to my dad for in eighth grade going into ninth grade, I was like, I want to play hockey, and I just kept begging and begging and begging and begging. He's like, fine, and then I started taking ice hockey lessons. Blah, blah, blah. But long story short, that birthed my entrepreneur spirit of just working hard. And I was the fat kid who went to skinny. I achieved my dream and played a high school level hockey and dabbled in some travel. But that's what led me into the business, and that's why I chose business as a degree in college.
That is so fantastic to lead into Augusta. So, how did you first hear about Augusta?
Well, like many, I I started landscaping with pretty much zero experience. So my friend YouTube came to the rescue, and early on, asking questions, and Mike was one of the people that I would watch. I wasn't too familiar with Augusta. I just knew this guy knew what he was talking about. He had a successful company, and yeah, but later on, the after doing a whole year of landscaping, I was like on the verge of honestly quitting and selling the company. Um, Maybe it was fear, or
Yeah.
maybe it was the get rich quick in my head that I wanted. But I started watching Mike's videos, and I was like, wait, this is possible. And, I started learning about Augusta, listening to all the franchise videos, and diving into a call. I did a call with Lee in the fall because I was like, wait, maybe I can do this. And I was like, hold off on it. But it all started from YouTube and watching Mike.
Awesome. So, when did you first hear that a location was for sale? Just to give a little background, we had a franchisee there in New York. And first of all, how many customers did you have for your small business?
Well, before I joined Augusta, it was like 50 around there,
Okay.
50 recurring clients.
Okay. And then how did you hear that a location was for sale? Because we had a franchisee who wanted to get out of the business, wanted to sell, had some events in his life that caused him to need to bow out. And how did you find that there was one for sale?
Well, it was my deep research on reading every single page on Augusta. Um, I just was like, I was really curious, and I came across seeing that the previous Augusta member, Dix Hills, was selling a business. I was like, oh, that's incredible. Like that's right by me, and I didn't realize that there was people
Hmm.
right near me. And I went on YouTube, and I found that he had a successful location at some
Hmm.
point, and I was like, oh wow, I kind of inspired me. I was like, oh, it's right in my neighborhood.
Yes. So was that on some like business buy and sell, or was that on an Augusta page that had listings of locations that would be for sale?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was on the Augusta site, where it was like businesses for sale. And I think at the time there was two locations, and I was just surprised to see that
Yeah.
Dix Hills, New York, which is literally 20 minutes away from me.
Wow. Wow. So when you had your call with Lee, did you call Lee to talk about the one that was for sale, or did Lee let you know, hey, it's available after a call with him? Or was your initial one about that location?
Well, I had two calls with Lee before joining Augusta. My initial call was kind of both of us vetting each other.
Yes.
But then the second call, it was it was just like to answer the questions I needed to join. I knew I wanted to in my heart, um, but honestly, like I wasn't looking to buy the location because I didn't have anywhere, like I didn't have the money to do that.
Hmm.
Um, but it was a thought in the back of my head of like the possibilities of having that. But yeah.
So that location was what we call a growth location. And when you talked to Lee about buying in, were you considering the growth location, or did we somehow turn that into a solo model for you?
Yeah, I at heart I really did want to go right into growth, but I did not have the money to do it. And so Lee said, "Well, listen, we have the solo model," and it gave me the opportunity to jump into this. And I'm so glad I did when I did, because if I would have waited another year, I don't know if I would still be doing this. If I'm being honest.
Yeah. Yeah. What month and year was that?
When I joined.
Mm-hmm.
This was in January. I had that call, and pretty much right after that, probably like a week after that, Lee sent me the thing to book in, and it was almost instantaneously. And next thing you know, I was on a plane to Washington State for training.
Wow. So Augusta is really in the infant stages of Augusta Nation. And yours was the first, if I'm correct, that we had done this from a location that had existed previously. And so we were just kind of figuring it out together. So when you have your clients and you buy an Augusta location, how does that work with the previous clients? Are you entitled to any of them? Or, and does that change because you're a solo model? How did that work out?
Well, me going into it, buying the location, I have access to all of my clients, and I'm in kind of a unique situation where Augusta of Westbury is his territory. He has a 5 mile territory.
Yes.
That's his protected. So, I can't get new leads in there. But I had my whole entire client base in his territory.
Oh,
But
my word.
yeah, with Augusta though, I was able to keep my clients,
Okay.
and everybody inside of Augusta, we're all on the same team. Mark may have a different business than I do. That's Mark is the Westbury owner.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but he's been incredible. Like in Farmingdale, that's where a lot of my clients are. I was having people call, and command center would turn them away because it's not my territory. One, and two, Mark, that's not his service area.
I see.
So Mark, I reached out to him and he said, "Listen, I don't want these clients here. You can have them." And so he talked to command center and they set it up so all the leads that are in Farmingdale in that area I can have. So it's nothing was taken away, and more was given than I could have asked.
Incredible. So is he like in a circular 5 mile radius, or does it kind of fit around cities and highways?
Well, yeah, so I think the center of Mark is Westbury, but yeah, it's a circular 5 mile radius that he has.
Okay.
And you don't necessarily have to serve that entire 5 mile radius. Being that we're on Long Island, it is extremely dense. And I've realized this year you don't need to be all over. You really can build a very tight business in one small town. But Mark, he's chosen a certain area that he wants to serve. So inside that 5 mile radius, he has a service area. Um, so yeah.
Do you think it's some sort of quality about franchisee owners in Augusta Nation that they'd be able to work together like that?
Oh, absolutely. The reason why I joined was because of another franchisee member. Uh, Everybody here is they every time I call, they answer the phone. If I have a question, they're more than willing to help. Um, I mean, from Logan in Nebraska, or the top dogs, everybody is willing to come down to your level and give you their 2 cents. And whether that be the coaches, the command center is always great. Everybody's just here to help.
So you decided to join in January, right? And then did you come to training in January?
Yeah. Actually, no, I came in February.
Okay, so that all happened pretty quick.
Yeah, it was it was a very quick process, and I don't know if I was exactly ready for it, but you
Yeah.
know what? You're not ready for anything unless you go through it. You need to go through it. Like um I waited to the last minute to pay the invoice
Yep.
on the solo model, so I did not pay the growth model fee.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but I had a call with another Augusta member, which was Logan, who I just mentioned before. He is awesome. He's one of my good friends inside the community here, and he's my age. He's, I think, just a year older than me. So getting to talk to him before taking this huge leap destroyed all of my objections. Everybody was kind of telling me, don't do this, because a lot of people have a bad rap with franchises. Like, they're going to take advantage of you. They just want your money. I
Mm-hmm.
knew in my heart that's not what it was. But talking to Logan, he convinced me, because what does he have to gain by telling me to join? And
Right.
yeah, and that from there, boom, 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 I threw my money into it, barely had anything left, and I was blessed. It was, I'm sure I can get into that later, but yeah.
What did your parents, who had very steady jobs, number one, number two, they were at home. So it's not like they had this massive amount of coworkers and stress and travel that they have to deal with every day. So what in the world did they think Number one, when you started a lawn care business. Number two, when you joined this franchise.
Well, like I said, my parents they're not quite the risk takers, and I'm the polar opposite. I have spent tens of thousands of dollars in I can't call it dumb, but you maybe mistakes in
Mhm.
different mentorships that weren't what they promised. Um, so my parents are familiar with my call it shenanigans, but they were very hesitant, especially
I'm
being
sure.
I've never been on a plane, so
Oh man.
yeah. So for me to make another big investment, fly across the country, that was one. And especially when I first started, I only worked landscaping for 2 months. I had no experience. I was 19 years old and drop out of college, quit my other job. And my boss goes, "Hey, I'm selling this." I'm like, "What? What am I going to do?" I might tell my parents, "I'm going to buy this." And they're like, how are you going to do that? What about, how are you going to drive a trailer? How are you going to do this? Like the typical, like, this care.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, I think I've proven to them that I'm capable. And so is my brother, who we can always talk about him too. I wouldn't be
Mhm.
where I am without him and his help. Um, but yeah, typical parents, just caring and
Yes.
want
Yeah.
you to be safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you scrape together the money at that age and making such a quick decision? It wasn't like you saved for 3 years.
No. Um, I definitely did not have money. I had at the time maybe a couple $1,000, and I could tell the story in brief. In 2021, during the summer, I was working at a factory part time, and I wasn't going to school because it was the summer. I was still deciding if I wanted to continue down this path or not of a business degree. And my uncle jokingly asked me at a party, "Hey, do you want to cut lawns?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." I thought he was asking me to cut his lawn. I'm like, "I enjoy it. I don't mind. I like doing my own." And he's like, he was serious, and his landscaper was looking for work. So, long story short, I met this man named Greg. Greg was an incredible man who gifted me, not gifted entirely, but he blessed me at the price he did, the business. But to go back a little bit, I'm getting ahead of myself. Um, I worked with Greg for 2 months in the summer months up until September, where I decided I'm not going back to school. I'm going to finish the season with my boss, Greg. And I quit my factory job because I was getting paid more being a landscaper. Right after that, Greg says, "Joe, I'm selling the business." And for context, Greg was very sick. He has Parkinson's and
Mm.
all different kinds of diseases, but he's one of the hardest working guys I know. He was, with all the condition that he was in, he was out there 7 days a week. And I was happy to help him when I could. But yeah, I was in a pickle. I quit my job, dropped out of college, and I
Wow.
and I was just like, the way that I am, I'm all in or nothing. And I looked at him, I'm like, "I'm gonna buy this." And he looked at me with two heads. He's like, "No, you're not. How are you gonna get the money?" Da, 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 da. And I'm like, "No, I'm gonna find a way." And I'm like, I don't even know. Like, I was just getting the paperwork together. I'm like trying to figure out the money, and that was the worst part. I was like, I could figure out this paperwork. I can, you know, set up a business, get an EIN, all that crap. I could do that. But when it came to the money, which I did not have, he was originally asking for 30,000.
Oh my word.
Yeah, to buy the business, and I'm like, huh, how's a 19-year-old gonna get $30,000?
No
So
kidding.
I spent every day after work applying for loan after loan after loan, trying to co-sign with my dad, my mom, and they don't have the best credit, because of some mistakes in the past. And the best I got was like $6,000, and I was on the verge of giving up. And I'm like, oh, like, now what am I gonna do? And right, like, I'm like just I'm looking, and I get a text from my girlfriend. Just to go back a little bit before I go into this, my girlfriend's father, he's probably my biggest role model. He's one of the hardest working men I know. He's the guy who knows how to do everything and anything. He moved from Poland, knew nothing. I was telling him that I have this opportunity to to buy a landscaping company. And all he knows is work. He
Mhm.
worked on a roof his whole life, and he was listening. He's like, he had his concerns, but
Yeah.
he listened to me. He's like, yeah, if you could do that, then I think that'd be a good opportunity for you. You're not going to school. Go ahead and do it. But back to what I was saying, I was about to give up because I couldn't find the money. And 9 o'clock, laying on my pillow in my bed, trying to get a loan, I get a text from my girlfriend. She's like, Joe, my dad said he'll give you the money. Like,
Oh my word.
and I was like, what? Like, are you serious?
I got the chills.
Yeah. And I just like, I couldn't believe it. And at the time it was like, I was like, okay, maybe, like, let me just keep looking for a loan and I can get like 10,000 so he doesn't have to give as much. And my boss, at the time, like, he really wanted to get out of it. Like, he told me a week he was trying to sell it, and it turned out to be a month. So it bought me time. But I remember being in the car during all of this working, and he was getting calls from other landscapers who were offering him 35,000.
Wow.
And I didn't have that money. But Greg looked at me. He's like, "Listen, I'll do 20,000 for you. I want you to succeed." And like everything came together at once.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'll throw this in there because I didn't know if I should do it, and I should take such a big risk for my age. But I remember I was working with Greg one day, and another landscaping truck driving by on the opposite side of the road, and it had a huge sign, "God is good," over it. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. And then yeah, like, we got all the paperwork together, and it was such a headache because my boss was so sick, and he wasn't really helping out. The truck was a mess, and I just did everything I could for that whole month, and it came together. I got the money from my girlfriend's father, and yeah, that was just the start of my journey.
Incredible. So, what did you get with this business? How many clients, trucks, equipment?
Well, to start, I got what we like to call a chuck and truck business.
Okay.
I got one truck, a trailer, two walk-behind mowers, and a push mower that was falling apart.
Wow.
The truck was filled with dirt that had oil all in it.
Sick.
Yeah. I found over $100 in quarters in the truck.
That's awesome.
I found spoons, forks. It was not in good shape. Clients, I had originally, Greg, he had like 100-something clients, but in the months I was working, a lot of people were canceling service because he could not keep up with it.
Yeah.
I wound up taking about 60 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember typing out a letter and dropping it off at everybody's mailbox. Hey, I'm taking over the company. I'm a kid. Do you want to stay with me? Shoot me a text.
That's great. Did that help you? I mean, that sounds like a competitive advantage to me.
Yeah, it honestly did. I think people saw like wow, this is cool. Like a kid, and they were familiar with my face because I was working with Greg for a couple of months. Greg put in a good word, like hey, like, this guy's a hard worker. He's the best worker, whatever. He just talking me up because he wants the clients to stay with me. But yeah, it took a lot of filtering out because Greg, he unfortunately was not in a position where he was too afraid to raise his prices and lose clients. He's very strapped for cash. And so I had a lot of people who took advantage of him and tried to do the same to me. But I still have probably 40 of those people that I originally took on.
So now you have this business, and are you paying your girlfriend's dad a monthly fee to pay him back, or was this completely gifted?
So we agreed that I would pay him $1,000 a month, no interest, and he's just so great. I can't wait to give it all back to him times 300 one day,
Or pay it forward to somebody else?
Yep,
That would be so good.
He's just so generous. I've since paid off that initial 20,000 again last year in the beginning of the year. He's like, dude, you need a better mower for for these Dix Hills clients because the yards are so big.
Yeah.
So he took me up we drove up to Pennsylvania, a 4 hour drive to this mower dealer. He bought me in cash a $10,000 mower. he,
Beautiful.
he he just constantly paying it forward to me. He's the man. But yeah, I've since paid off the initial 20,000 and more. But
Right.
I can't thank him enough.
So when you came to Augusta, now you had to pay, what's the solo model? Another $7,000?
Yes. So I paid $7,000 as my initial fee.
And how did you afford that? Was it because you had already had the clients and you were able to scrape it together, or did he help you again?
So that was me, and I don't know how I scraped this together. It was a lot of calculations, and I mean, I scraped it together down to the penny. I had about $5,000 in the bank account from the previous year landscaping, and I said to my girlfriend, "It's time to get a job." And I didn't. My ego is a little high because, oh, you're a business owner, and I didn't want
Yeah.
to. But I wound up working at a bar for for a few months after that to put together. Well, actually, during the whole process, I talked to my friend. I was like, "Hey, can I get a job here?" And I scraped together the money as fast as possible. I had some savings lying around, and I took the jump, put it in there, and I went into the season with maybe like $1,000 left. I had nothing, and to go into spring rush with nothing, it was very scary, but it was worth it because after that, everything just took off.
Mhm.
And I
Did
mean, I'm probably getting ahead of myself here, but
did Greg have a business name? And did you have to like transfer a brand, or and how did you afford to wrap your truck or paint your truck and all those things?
well, Greg, he just had a regular truck in what you call it. It was just red. No,
Like
it just
Greg's
like
Lawn Care or something?
yeah, it was Scenic Lawns and Gardens. That was the name of his company, but he didn't have any sign on his car or paint or nothing. Um, but yeah, like that came down to the cash I made after we went to franchise training. I spent a lot of money on the paint here in New
Mhm.
York. Nothing is cheap.
Yep.
Like, I hear people saying in the community, "Yeah, come down here. It's $500." What? I paid a whopping 2,700
Oh my word.
to get it painted, and another 500 to put the decals on.
In-
Um, yeah, but luckily I made money very quickly, right into March.
Mhm.
But that's another story as per why I made money very quickly.
Okay, so we'll get to that. So you had about 50 clients. You came into Augusta, and were you able to get some of the previous owners' clients?
Well, at training, I was met with the amazing surprise, and I kind of jaw dropped. Like I think Liz saw my jaw drop to the floor while we were at training. Um, but yeah, I was gifted with the entire database of the previous owner of Dix Hills, which was 1,500 odd something clients.
Mhm.
Which for me, I was like, "Who? Like, how the hell am I going to do all this work? Like, there's no
That's
way."
kind of overwhelming. Nice gift, but it's overwhelming.
Yeah. um, yeah, but I got to the privilege to market to those people. It was not all sunshines and rainbows,
I'm sure.
and to be granted, I learned a lot, but that's what kicked me off. And the highest month I saw the year before Augusta was 11,000, and this year I got as high as 19,000 in 1 month. And for me at 21, that was unheard of.
Incredible. So, a couple things. You actually look a little bit like the other owner. And taking on, like you said, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows when you brought these clients on, because a lot of times when an owner sells or gets out of
Mhm.
the business, everything is not hunky dory. And they've usually not shown up to customers' properties. They've given bad service and haven't come back and fixed jobs.
Mhm.
So you actually started probably on a little bit of a bad note with these customers, and they probably thought you were the other guy.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened. Um, I got a lot of nasty emails where I was like, if I get another email from you, we're pursuing legal action. I'm like, okay, like
Yes.
I try to kindly explain, like, listen, I am not this person. I won't email you again. You can also unsubscribe. To going door to door to these houses. Uh, I I don't know if they may have accidentally clicked something. We do in our marketing campaigns. We send out one-click estimates
Mm-hmm.
where a client can simply click a link and it lets us know that they are interested in getting a quote for a service. Um, I went out to some houses and they were like, "What on earth are you doing here?" Close the door.
Yeah.
I don't know if they were curious or they clicked the link accidentally, but people were not happy to see a guy in a yellow uniform showing up to their property. That wasn't all of them. Um, I have so many stories. I mean,
You've done one spring rush or two?
well, one spring rush with Augusta. Before that, it was kind of just Joe's hunky dory
Yes.
mope around and do whatever he gets. This year was kind of my first rush,
Mm-hmm.
and I learned a lot from that, and we can get into that a little later.
Yeah. So tell me about that. Tell me how your brother got on board and then
Oh,
where you guys are this year, how it all went for you.
well, my brother, he similar case to me, except he didn't go down to college. Once he graduated high school in 2022, he graduated. So he started working with me part time the summer and fall, and then 2023 when I joined Augusta, he was all in with me, and he actually went off to training and got to experience like this is what we're doing, like this is the opportunity. But our journey this year has been it's been an adventure to say the least. I think it was a huge learning curve for me. I don't think I've been the best owner, the best manager. I always say to everyone who says like, if you went through this year again, what would you do differently? Um, I would go even more in than I did. I think I was very afraid of
Mhm.
the work,
Yeah.
and it was a lot going from 8,000 average a month to 15, 16, 17, 18,000 a month. And I think I pushed off a lot of estimates because I was scared of the
Yeah.
amount of work that was coming in, and I wasn't my best. Uh, my brother, he always showed up to work. He's always outside, ready, always on time.
What a guy.
He when I was down, he was there to pick me up, and when I was down, I mean when I was up, I was there to pick him up when he was down. He's my next hand man, and I hope as we grow, I get to bless him more and more, and maybe one day he'll own his own location.
Yeah. So how much are you doing now in revenue? Like what was your most for this past year?
Our highest month was it was somewhere between 19 and just under 20.
Awesome.
Um, we had 2 months where we were like one was just under 19 and one was over 19. But the average was between 15 and 17,000 per month.
Okay.
Towards the end of the year, I really slowed down, and that's my own fault, admittedly. Um, Augusta is extremely powerful. I
Yes.
I didn't spend any money on marketing this first half
Wow.
of the year. I did nothing, and it took my business from 0 to 100, literally. And I admittedly was lazy and complacent at times, but the work kept coming despite my I may be hard on myself, but I think they were lackluster efforts. But the
Mhm.
power of Augusta alone was pushing me forward and keeping money pouring in. But
Mhm.
once the demand curve dropped off, I needed to step up as an owner,
Yeah.
the manager of the business.
So did you get another truck or are you and your brother running routes together in the same truck?
Well, another curve for me. I did get another truck because in the beginning of the year, the work was so much, and it was just me and my brother doing this that's when we had our $18,000-$19,000 months. I hired a third employee in June, and the plan was to buy that truck and let's rock and roll and get a fourth, because I was anticipating the growth to keep going and going and going. It didn't, because I was being lazy. I didn't push. I was relying on the Google demand,
Yeah.
me ranking well on Google. But yeah, I bought another truck that sat and did nothing for a while because I was too afraid to send off somebody on their own. And that was a huge learning curve for me, which I eventually mustered up the courage and said, you know what, you need to trust your employees,
Mm-hmm.
send them out, and let's rock and roll. And no, I wasn't running an efficient route. I had 4 guys. At points, there was 3 of us in a truck. Nobody was making P4P at the time, which is another way that we pay our employees. But humbly, this whole year is a learning curve.
I bet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All I can say is that I am really beyond proud of you. Like, to meet you at training and it's all new and big and unknown. Nobody in your family's ever done it. So it's not like your entire childhood you sat around the table and heard adults taking entrepreneurial risks
Mm-hmm.
and talking about money and this is how you invest this and oh, this startup business. And you had none of that. And yet you
Yep.
took this risk. It's almost like breaking a cycle in a family, that it's like you've turned and gone this whole other direction and actually leading your family, leading your brother for something successful.
Mm-hmm.
So
Thank you.
what are your goals for this upcoming year? How would
Oh,
you change things?
I got big goals. This year, I'm honestly shooting for the stars.
Okay.
I don't know if I exactly like numbers, but if I was to throw one out, I'd like to do 300,000
Okay.
in annual revenue.
Mm-hmm.
Last year we did 145,000, which,
Incredible.
yeah, the year before, my first year was 88,000. So it was a big jump for us.
Mm-hmm.
And just me looking at, like, self-reflecting and looking at how I ran things, and
Mm-hmm.
the fact that I was able to accomplish so much growth in a year without going all in and being lazy at times,
Mm-hmm.
it just tells me that if I really go all in, like, and even looking around at other people who are my age, and especially Logan, what he's achieved and where he's going,
Mm-hmm.
I know what's possible. I have the capacity to do things beyond what I thought was capable 2 years ago.
Definitely.
And that stems from just, instead of looking at things as like a 1 month plan, a 1 year plan, it's looking at it as a 10-year plan and
Got it.
20-year plan, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what's shifted my direction to push this year.
Are there things that you listen to or absorb, or what do you do to motivate yourself? How did you even know you were being lazy, and what is it in you that makes you push forward?
Mm, I'm extremely hard on myself. I try to do too many things at once, and I sometimes, it's maybe that, not that I'm lazy, it's just that I have a split focus, and it makes me push off things that I should not be pushing off, like estimates.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I love the work that I do for Augusta, but then there's like the entrepreneur in me that's like, I want to post on TikTok, I want to make another viral video, I want to build this thing, I want to do that.
Right.
So my focus it wasn't where it exactly needed to be. Um, but looking at it this year, it's just a matter of prioritizing as an owner. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think I was the best leader. In the workspace, I don't think I was doing what a leader should do.
Mm-hmm.
A days my brother was the first one outside, and I know that's not how it should be. I should be the first one up, and I recognize that I need to do better as a leader and taking. I mean, I'll take responsibility all day, and I say this. I said this to another Augusta member. if I was one of Mike's GMs, I would have been fired 20 times.
That's awesome.
Humbly.
Yeah. So, what are you going to do to change that? Are you listening to audibles? Are you listening to entrepreneurial podcasts? Do you and your brother listen to things while you work?
I am constantly listening to something or reading something. Right now, I'm actually reading Atomic Habits. I'm
Awesome.
almost through that book. It's a great book. Um, but I'm always listening to something, whether it's health based, which is a huge passion of mine. Another reason why I'm like, all over here.
Yep.
But always listening to something, whether it's the Huberman podcast or something on the subconscious mind, or I have another book that I'm going to be reading next is Psycho-Cybernetics, Talking to Lee. I got to listen to or read one of Jocko Willink's books. I forget what it's called off the top of my head, excuse me. But
Extreme
it's about
leadership.
leadership. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good. That's a great one. It'll help so much. There's another one, that leadership strategies and tactics. That's really good. Once you get employees, it helps a lot.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah,
I'm going to need that for this year.
So how has your girlfriend stuck with you through all this? It sounds like she knew you before, she loved you before. And so how has this transition been for her?
Well, maybe she was, let's say she was a little hesitant because like I said, I am a strong person who is a victim of shiny object syndrome. So she thought this was one of those things that's like, all right, well, this is a big investment. If you're actually going to are you actually going to stick with this? Are you actually going to do it? I'm like, yes. It's been a roller coaster, but she has turned. She sees what I've stepped into, and she's extremely supportive. And she always tells me, like, you're too hard on yourself. Like, look at where you came from. Like, just take a deep breath. We're on the same journey. And she's an entrepreneur herself. She has her own business.
So it sounds like she's proud of the man you're becoming.
I'd like to think so. Yeah.
Yeah. And what about her dad?
He's not the type of person to say it, maybe, but he 100% is. And I work with him on the weekends sometimes because I like to learn new trades. He's, like I said, he's very handy. He's definitely proud of me and where I've come, and he's always right there. Like whenever I have a question or I have a flat tire, like he's there. He's on the way to change the tire for me, or my machine breaks and he's like, oh, let's get this fixed. I smash a door and with a rock, and now we're working together to fix it. But he's proud of me, and he's always looking for my best interests. Like he's looking at a dump trailer, he's proud, and he's excited about it.
So does he listen to any of the content or just what you've let him know about to have confidence in what you're doing?
I think it's more so my word. He was hesitant about me doing this. He's the type of person who does everything himself. So it's out of what he would do. Yeah. But he's seen what it's done for me this year, like where I went.
Does he feel like the community around you has helped you a lot? Like he would acknowledge that it's because of the community that you've been so successful?
Honestly, I don't know. I mean, he's very, like I said, he's like very this is his way, and he does it himself.
I did it myself. You can do it yourself. You don't need anybody.
He does. Yeah, he doesn't really ask questions about that. I'd say more so my girlfriend understands that because she sees that, and she sees me reading the Facebook group or talking to Logan or whoever, and she came to a conference this year, so she really saw how everybody is so cool and nice to talk to, and the value that is provided.
Yeah, I am so disappointed I didn't get to meet her. I didn't know she was there. I didn't know you were there because there's so many of us now. Yeah. And we were at the conference part, and I was just going out to use the restroom, and I saw you, and I'm like, just patted you on the shoulder. Yep. Man, I wish I could have talked to you and met her.
No, it's okay. She got to talk to Mike, which he was like, oh, you're a painter, cool. But she would have loved to talk to you, and we'll definitely be seeing you guys again.
Good, good.
whether
We'll look
that be
forward to it.
this year or next year.
Yeah. So what's your big goal?
My big goal is to build something, not to build something, but to build a business where it could run efficiently without me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, fund the life that I would love to live. I think my ultimate goal is to build a family and bring back values that I think was lost in this
Yeah.
world.
Mm-hmm.
But I look at it as my machine to get there. It's the ship that I'm riding to fuel my fire. And yeah, I'd love to have a
Mm-hmm.
multiple locations across Long Island. There's so much money here. It's
Mm-hmm.
extremely dense. You don't need a 5 mile radius to build a business here. And I realized that this year you can build a business in my single town where I live in Lindenhurst. And
Mm-hmm. So
yeah,
this solo model is really like a leg up for somebody that doesn't have a lot of money in the beginning. For
mhm.
those who are listening, how does that work? Can you eventually become a growth model and be able to secure the territory that you've already accumulated all these clients in?
Yeah, absolutely. And you have a 2-year grace period to upgrade to growth model. And don't look at it like that as like the franchise is trying to get you. It's
Mhm.
I wanna be in growth model. Like once you're in the thick of it, you don't want to be dealing with the things that they take care of inside of growth model.
Yeah,
Um,
true. Because you won't have time for it if you're actually
mhm,
in growth mode. So,
mhm.
what is it that Command can do for you at Command Center? For those listening, we do everything an office staff would do. But what is offered to you as a solo model?
Well, as a solo model, they're taking care of all of my calls and they send out estimates when I go out and do, um, I go take my estimate notes, send it back to command, and then they'll send that out to the client. Um, there's a few other I'm forgetting, but um, once you go into growth, the question is, what can't they do for you?
Yeah. So it's like an a la carte menu that you'd be able to just choose what you want.
Yeah, you don't have to do any of it. If you really wanted to not use them, which I do not recommend,
Hmm.
I recommend you do use them. You can choose whichever and whatever option you want. And we as solo are limited in what we can choose. But that's paid out at I believe the rate's like 90 cents per minute and $1.09. But for me to hire somebody full time at where I'm at to do that work, it would cost me far more than anything I've
Yeah.
paid per
Yeah,
month
you're
this
looking at
year.
probably what the rates are there. You're looking at 50 or 60 or more thousand if you're going to pay them
Mhm,
by the hour during the spring. And then
mhm.
if you think about paying that growth model fee of 20,000, I think it might be, that is like an upfront paying for an employee that you will have year round and you only pay for what you use.
Mhm.
It would take all
And
the pressure off you and your brother to be just go for it and do the work and have messages to shoot back to command to take care of things for you.
oh, absolutely. And for if people, even if um you do have the money to go into growth, I think solo is great because I have an understanding now of what command is doing for me. I know how to do the accounting. I know how to do the payroll. I know how to onboard an employee.
Mhm.
I
That's a
know how
great.
to do all these things. And uh, to me, I'd rather know how to do something because God forbid, something went south. I know I can do it. And if I need to teach somebody to do something, I can do that.
Yeah, that's great. So we'll start to wrap up today, but I really feel like it's important for you to have a platform here to talk to other young guys that were your age. You were 19, 20, now you're 21. If they are wanting to get started, what kind of advice would you give them? And what kind of mindset should they be in to take on a risk like this?
Well, I tell all of my friends and anyone who comes to me saying like, "Hey, I want to do this." I'm like, "Okay, do it. Go all in because there's never going to come a time where everything's perfect. It's
Mhm.
if you think that the risk is too big. I don't think so. You're 20, you're 19, 18, 17. You probably live at home. If worse
Yeah.
comes to worse, you lose all your money, you have a roof over your head. You can
Yeah.
start from nothing.
Great point.
I just dive in, and if
Mm.
I've learned anything, that's the best way to learn, is to just
Mhm.
dive in. I had no experience when I started, um, but I got the experience from just starting.
Doing
Eh,
it. Yeah.
It wasn't watching, watching YouTube was great, but when I got into the business and started doing things and having real world experience of selling, knocking on doors, talking to customers, somebody screaming at you, that's
Yeah.
where you learn. And that's the best way to learn and grow.
That is great advice. What about any quotes? Few quotes, one quote. What do you have?
Well, whenever I get asked this question, my immediate response, my brain, is to think of a famous actor quote. And I'm like looking on Google. I'm like, I don't like this one. I don't like this one. And then I was reflecting, and some of the only quotes that I do remember come from the Bible, if you don't mind me sharing.
Oh, that's
And it's from Jesus, and I share this one, and it's, truly I tell you, if you have faith and do not doubt, not only can you do what was done to the fig tree, but also you can say to this mountain, go throw yourself into the sea, and it will be done. If you believe, you will receive whatever you ask for in prayer. And I
that's
think that's a message and hope that I always refer back to. Um, he's my foundation. He's my savior, and uh, I wouldn't be where I am today if I never came to faith.
I believe that. That is a great note to end on. I appreciate your time today. Thank you so much. I know you're busy and you have a lot going on, but we appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Liz.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.